AM 1380, The Biz, the Wall Street Business Network.
Are you one of the 9 million Floridians living in a community managed by a property manager or HOA? If you've ever wondered what your rights are as a resident or what your role is as a volunteer board member, you've come to the right place. Welcome to the Condo Coaches, your resource for when your gated community starts to feel more like you're stuck behind bars, or when that guy next door decides that a hot pink Chevy on cinder blocks really sets the tone for the neighborhood. The Condo Coaches is brought to you by lmfunding.com. Find the Condo Coaches online at thecondocoaches.com. And now your host, Johnny Torres.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. It's another show for the Condo Coaches. We'd like to thank you for listening all across the state of Florida, whether you be listening down in Miami, the Palm Beaches, Orlando, or Tampa Bay, where the show originates. Again, for those of you listening for the first time, you can find every episode, going back 37 episodes now. You can find those on Facebook.com/The Condo Coaches or YouTube. Just search The Condo Coaches. Of course, you can also get plenty of more information about who the Condo Coaches are and what we do at thecondocoaches.com. And, as always, joining me, Mr. Dean Akers. How are you, sir?
Good.
Now, head coach is in the building, as always, and, give me a little bit of an idea. We had a bit of the storms come through, a lot of heavy weather recently. Have we been hearing at all, about some of the kind of consequences from that?
We've had some. We had a lady that we'll talk about in a few minutes that had a palm frond fall from one of their trees.
Yep.
And she was wondering whether the association's liable. And, we checked with some of our coaches, and it is a common element, and it caused damage. Here's the bigger thing. Back to our thing, we keep talking about practicalities. Mm-hmm. The reality is she goes, she should contact her attorney.
Right.
Okay, so that's going to be $500. The car owner has a deductible of X. So maybe she says, hey, would it be okay if we just paid your deductible? It's a comprehensive case, so it doesn't usually impact their rates.
Right.
Just there's 100 ways to go. There's no upside to any fighting about it at all.
Well, but, you're talking about Patricia Marino, who emailed us, and she actually followed up with us through our Facebook page and said, hey, are you guys going to ask my question today? Are you going to talk about my question? So she's very concerned about this, rightly so. I mean, it's a personal property damage situation where, again, lots of rain, lots of high winds. Of course, Miami Beach was flooded, I think, for almost a week. So we're going to expect more and more of these kind of questions. And as you said, there was a palm frond that fell on a car, damaged the rear window. Of course, now the owners are wanting the compensation to have that repaired. But as you said, it may cost more to pursue this through a legal team. It may be good to maybe come to an agreement where they take care of the deductible. The insurance company should take care of the rest. It's a natural disaster. It's not going to impact their rates, right? That's more or less probably the best approach in this situation.
Well, and the deductible is probably $500 too. So at the end of the day, this is one. Now, if somebody wanted to argue that something happened and it cost $25,000 worth of damage, first off, you're going to turn it into your insurance company, and they're going to hire counsel and everything. So.
Yeah. Well, they said that, they have under their own insurance, their deductible is $5,000. So it wouldn't get covered by their deductible anyways when all they're asking for is $500, which is probably just the deductible for the insurance company to go ahead and take care of the rest.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Most associations have $5,000 deductibles. So while they argue, inside that window, if you even call an attorney up, it's going to cost you $300 to $500 for him to say a yes.
Yeah. So thank you again, Patricia. Please send all of your questions. We love that phenomenal question. Timing couldn't be better. Yeah, because, again, this happens in a lot of variations, with, again, people's cars being in the community and that sort of thing. This sort of thing is just going to happen.
Well, and you need to have your trees assessed anyway. If you're a board member, you ought to have an arborist or your whoever your maintenance company is come out and look at them. Because if you have big canopy oak trees and you're not keeping them maintained, and
those
we have a wind event.
Damage.
Oh, yeah. They're going to create a lot of problems.
Well, we had, we talked about landscaping in a previous episode, so look that up for those of you interested. But the truth of the matter is that this is the kind of stuff that you should be doing before storm season. So
Sure.
before hurricane season, have the landscaper come out, trim those trees appropriately, and you're significantly reducing the risk of something like this happening.
Having been a former landscaper, I had a pretty large landscaping company back in another lifetime, but most of the palm fronds, if they fall, those palm fronds weren't nice green palm fronds on a healthy palm. They're the ones that were going to fall. They should have been maintained.
Yeah.
They just don't blow over. The whole palm tree will blow over on a healthy palm before the fronds blow off of it.
Well, and again, it's one of these things that deceptively they look light, but those things are heavy.
Oh, yeah.
Those things are
They're
incredibly
like a projectile. They're like a missile.
Absolutely, especially the bottom, bottom base part. So, sitting next to head coach Dean Akers, patiently waiting his introduction, is Jake Howse, one of our original condo coaches. How are you, sir?
Doing well. Thanks for having me on. Good to be back.
Yeah, great having you back. We're really excited. Of course, we're going to talk about a very important subject, which you've discussed on the show before, which is collections. And we're going to get into a little bit deeper on that subject, into exactly how to find the right partner when it comes to collections for a community association, and also some of the challenges that people face when it comes to even handling their own collections on a monthly basis. So thank you again for being on the show.
And let me say this, bringing Jake on to talk about collection professionals and processes and strategies for collection was timed perfect. And we reached back out to him because we've been getting these financials and doing these financial reviews.
That's right.
And just had one this morning that I was reviewing. They always, and the operative word is always, come down to accounts receivable and cash flow issues,
right?
Because that's the only cash. So when we see these challenges in these associations, and we now do the financial analysis, we don't just say, "Oh, that guy owes you." We look at their balance sheet and we said, "This is growing. This is gonna hammer you." And the one he and I looked at today had a negative $1.3 million shareholder value, which means this association is essentially mega broke.
Yeah.
And now they're sitting there trying to scramble, and we've got more questions, and I think the questions will maybe show us a different story when we're done.
Yeah.
But right now, it was ugly.
Well, we'll dive into this too, but there's a lifespan to this collections process.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and so, it may be too late for maybe a good chunk of that money that they now are missing out on.
Well, I think Jake and I on lunch were talking about this. He was sharing with me. A lot of people do traditional routes. They just turn it over to an attorney or a collection company or whatever.
Yeah.
You really want to find somebody that's like your partner in it, because there's a lot of decisions to be made, and he can allude to them. But we were talking, like when do you foreclose? We were talking about it at lunch. If you foreclose too early, now you've cut off accruing other assessments, and you have a property that in theory you own, but you can't do anything because the bank owns it.
Yeah.
And the people are still living in it, and now they're not even accruing the debt.
So we're going to be talking about collections and the whole process of collecting association fees, and also forming a relationship with a collections agency. And it's a good time for me to remind you that we also have our playbooks on our website right now that are free for you to download. And I'm only going to talk about these two because they are incredibly relevant to today's topic. And these are Understanding Your Community's Finances is one book. All right. And then the other one, which we made white because of how incredibly important it is.
Right.
We wanted this one to stand out on purpose, but it's Collecting Delinquent Association Fees. And both of these booklets, incredibly relevant, not only to today's topic, but again, this is what allows your community to exist and to run and to function. And especially if you are in a condominium, because I would say, okay, maybe a homeowners association where everyone's kind of responsible for the individual home doesn't have as significant of an impact. But if you're living in a condominium, townhome association, where a lot of your maintenance fees and all that are built into, just the daily running of your community, I mean, this could have a huge impact.
Well, think about an HOA. You have a standalone house, and you're sharing common areas and stuff like that.
Right.
Your homeowner's insurance is covering that house. So if you don't pay your homeowner's insurance, you're not covered.
Yep.
In a condominium, all those walls and that roof are a common element.
That's right.
So you don't get a homeowner's, structure policy to your house like you do in a house. So when you don't pay, you're really just not even paying your insurance. You're not paying a lot of stuff.
Landscaping.
Landscaping, again, you could have your yard be trashed.
Sure, right.
But your building is being insured that you're not paying for as an HOA. You pay for it individually.
Or even that trash collection.
Oh,
I mean, you certainly don't want to get in debt to those guys.
No, exactly. In other words, at a condominium association, the trash is being aggregated.
Yeah.
At your individual house, it's a utility somebody drives by in a truck and picks up.
So again, if just for these two booklets, go right now over to thecondocoaches.com/playbooks. Thecondocoaches.com/playbook is the URL. And when you fill out the form, just to let us know you're a live, living, breathing human being, we will actually let you download all 6 of our booklets, and you will also get emailed the links to those booklets where you can then download. You can even pass those on to your other board members or other residents in your community. Share them in your Facebook group. Let people know that you listen to the radio show, whether it be through a radio station, the iHeart Radio app, through Facebook or YouTube. But, again, we cannot stress how important this is, which is why we're going to be talking about it again today with Jake.
I got to tell you one funny thing. I was having coffee with a buddy of mine the other day, and he has a company called College Hunks for Junk. They haul all over the United States.
That's right, yeah.
And I spoke at their convention this past August. So we're having lunch, and he goes, "We got a new company." And I go, "What is it?" He says, "It's trash butlers." And I go, "What are trash butlers?" And that's what prompted me was when we were talking about picking up trash.
Yeah.
They are not doing it for condos yet, but I'm going to have him come on the show.
Okay.
They do it for apartment complexes where they go in and for a small fee, 5 days a week in the evenings, they pick up the trash at your door so the people don't have to go down to a dumpster, and then they keep it all clean.
Right.
And it's an amenity that's less than this bottle of water a day.
Wow. So it's a door service.
It's a door service. Yeah. I said, that's brilliant.
Yeah,
he
that's
says,
pretty fantastic.
They're doing it all across the United States. I said, "Do you do condos?" And he goes, "Well, no, we never even thought about condos." I said, "Well, those people have the same problem."
Well, a lot of the college dorms do that. That's what
they're
that's
doing
where it
college
comes from.
dorms.
All
yeah.
right. We're here with Jake Howse, head coach, Dean Akers. We're going to be talking collections on today's show. It's the Condo Coaches. Go to thecondocoaches.com for more. We'll be back.
Contact the Condo Coaches online at thecondocoaches.com. More of the Condo Coaches is coming up next.
With everything you've done to lift up those around you during your military career, we're not going to let your money concerns get you down. We're the NFCC, and we've got your back on this one. As your financial advocate, we're dedicated to improving the financial health of all members of the military community. Whether your debt issues are related to student loans or housing, or involve credit cards, our goal is to help you to defend your financial future. NFCC certified credit counselors have already made the difference for thousands of military members and their families. Let us make a difference for you and yours. Schedule a confidential financial review with an objective nonprofit NFCC financial counselor. Call us today at 877-404-6322. That's 877-404-6322. Or visit us at nfcc.org/military. You owe it to yourself. Get relief now.
Welcome back to the Condo Coaches, online at thecondocoaches.com. Here's your host, Johnny Torres.
Thank you again for listening. Segment 2 of the Condo Coaches radio show. And for those of you listening for the first time, we are a team of volunteers sharing our expertise, our knowledge to help you run your community or condominium or homeowner association effectively, efficiently, and on budget. We bring this show to you weekly with a great team of not only condo coaches, but experts. And today we have both. We have head coach Dean Akers with me and also condo coach Jake Howse.
Thanks for being here.
We're going to be talking collections, and we got into the topic a little bit and kind of got the broad 30,000 foot level. But let's kind of start right at the core of what today's episode is going to be about, which is choosing a collections partner. Typically, a property management company is the one that does the collections for a community, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So now, at what point do they kind of step back and be like, hey, this person's delinquent. You're going to need to either bring in somebody else in to handle this. because that they don't go past a certain point. What is typically that barrier where the property management company kind of says, all right, you guys need to get a hold of this because they're not responding to our solicitations for collections?
Sure. So your dues are due on day 1. On day 10, they're late. Typically, there's a letter sent out between day 10 and 30 to say, hey, you're late, a friendly reminder. After 60 days, it's a more of a direct, you still owe the money at 60 days. And then typically at 90 days, to answer your question, that's when their hands are off and it's sent to a collections professional.
Now, typically, is that, in terms of that handoff, is that decided by the property management company and somebody that they have a relationship with, or is this something that the board needs to line up to have in place for the property management to know, okay, if this person goes over the 90 days, this is who you need to hand it off to?
So that's a good question. And, what I would say to all the listeners out there who are volunteer members on their boards is to first look at a collection policy. And so because ultimately it's the board's responsibility to assess and collect those association dues. So create a sound collections policy that's notarized and signed and spells out exactly, according to their declarations, how they're going to collect. And it takes the kind of onerous off, because I've seen boards out there that vote on whether to send people to collections or not. There should be no voting.
Wow, right.
There should be a rubber stamped policy, and then you can hand that off to your management company and say,
sure,
here's our process, and then they'll follow that. That's a sound way to do it.
Because the rules are the rules. It's not, it's black and white. It's not like, oh, well, maybe we'll collect or maybe we won't. I mean, this is really, if you don't, you get into the situation which you talked about in segment 1, where now they're $1 million in the hole.
Well, Jake shared with me at lunch too, which I had no knowledge of, but he shared a word called selective enforcement, that you can actually get your board in trouble. What was it, Jake? You were sharing with me that if a board didn't collect from Mary, but collect from Susie and kind of let Mary off the hook, it was, what you call
selective enforcement. It's a, just Google that or reach out to us for more information. But you can selectively enforce your policy by sending Mary at 91 days and Bob at 120 days.
Sure.
When you have a sound collection policy, the onerous is off you. It's off the board.
And the board can get in trouble for treating Mary better than Fred.
Absolutely. If Fred finds out. Absolutely.
That was going to be my next point, which was, if you are practicing selective enforcement, you could be opening yourself up to a discrimination suit.
Big time.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
If you could say, okay, well, because person is a man, a woman, black, Hispanic, white, whatever it is,
friend,
or a friend, right, that they were, again, treated differently, rather than making it kind of a no vote situation where you're going to enforce the same way no matter who it is.
Well, and he was also sharing with me, and I'm kind of speaking for him right now, but that was such an interesting lunch. He was also sharing with me that it takes the emotion out of it. What you were saying, when everybody's trying to vote every time, they're going, well, I heard they lost their job. And
I just, the voting thing really blows my mind. There should, you don't vote on whether to send somebody to collections.
Do you find that to be pretty common?
Absolutely.
Okay,
absolutely.
wow.
Where we have to have a board, and you don't, sometimes you might skip a meeting.
Right.
So you might send somebody, vote to send a couple people at this meeting, skip a meeting, and then, your next batch of people who haven't paid, they're getting a little extra time.
Right.
If you're following that, the board vote thing. So I can't stress enough, coming up, when you're dealing with a collections professional, their first question to the board should be, what's your collection policy? And is it in writing? Is it notarized?
Now, will these collections companies typically make a recommendation as to a collection policy? I know property management companies probably already have like a template collections policy, but again, never hurts to have maybe the varying options or suggestions as to what the best collections policy would be to have.
Yes, and again, start with the collection policy. The other thing is I've seen varying degrees of collections policies out there, and then sometimes there are collection policies, but they're not being enforced. So really, it comes back to the board, making sure that they know exactly what their policy is and that it's being enforced by their management company.
And in that situation where they're not being enforced, why do you find that to be the case? Because that seems pretty odd to me that they just simply wouldn't enforce it, considering how dependent these communities are on those association fees. What is the reasoning, or what are some of the reasons why they wouldn't be enforcing a collections policy?
A storm comes through and palm fronds fall down, and they're dealing with that, and then they're dealing with their pool getting new gunite in it, and there's so many balls in the air that these management companies and boards are dealing with that sometimes you can honestly forget that.
So sometimes it's the property management company too that drops the ball on the collections front.
Sure.
Okay. But it's obviously the responsibility of the board to make sure that they're following through on that.
Correct.
Yeah. Which is why we talked about, it doesn't hurt to have somebody from your property management company at your board meetings.
Well, they usually are. Again, one of the things that prompted bringing Jake on was this financial assessments we're doing.
Right.
When we're getting these packages, they're coming to us from management companies. The boards are sending them to us, and it's the management company package. So it allows us to really look at everything. And that's where we sit there and see these train wrecks happening.
Yeah.
And they didn't happen in the last 30 days.
Right.
And so Jake's right. Having firm policies that allows when the board's not in session, if you will, they know that every month this is happening. And then they check back with their property management, or in Jake's case, a collection professional who's constantly updating them of the bigger picture, not just the legal, but the paths to go down. He was sharing with me.
So let's talk about that, because again, whether it's association fees or credit cards or car payments, nobody likes having to go to the collections agency, right? It's one of those people you'd rather not deal with. But they provide an incredibly valuable service, a very necessary service. And so I've seen there's companies, right, that do this type of work, where that's all they do. And then I've seen also now where there's law firms who also they take part in the collections business. So maybe you could explain to me the difference between the two, maybe some of the advantages of one versus the other.
I think it's most important, whoever you're dealing with, and go both. Go talk to collection agencies, go talk to law firms, talk to trusted vendors in this industry and find out what their fee structure is, find out what they do to collect. But I would say that when talking to all those folks out there in the industry, make sure that they're asking you good questions and that they're looking at your declarations and they're finding what interest and late fee that you can charge as an association, and making sure that you are in line with the state maximums that you can charge and all of those different things. They should be your consultant, your trusted partner, and they should put together a policy and procedure that you can use regardless of who's doing your collections.
Right.
Kind of take care of your own house as an association first, but make sure that the partners you're engaging with are being consultative.
Well, and again, I would see that obviously a collections agency where that's their primary focus or their sole focus may be more effective, right, than possibly a law firm that may provide those types of services, or is it really just comes down to that experience all around?
I would look at track record. I mean, again, the best part about the condominium and HOA industry in Florida is there are experts in every single field. As we just talked about, there's a trash collecting service that'll come pick up your trash at each door.
Right.
Clearly, they're going to be the experts with that. And so I would look for a collections partner that probably just focuses on collections. And the more volume they have, the more experience they have, I think that will do your association well.
Right, because again, this is an area, and I love talking about the fact that we do bring up these topics that really most people are completely in the dark about. They join these boards and they don't realize that these are some of the things that they're going to have to deal with. And again, I would say that maybe 95%, if not higher, of the people who are sitting on a board right now have ever dealt with a collections agency in any capacity.
True. And the one thing that just popped into my mind, if I could add, is make sure that your collections company or your collections professional, whoever they are, ask them about the Federal Debt Collection Practices Act,
okay.
FDCPA. That's a big deal.
We'll get into that.
Absolutely.
We'll get into that in the next segment. Again, Jake Howse, Condo Coach. We're talking collections along with head coach Dean Akers and how to find the best collections partner for your association. Again, you want to be a part of the show. Hit us up, 813-331-5415, 813-331-5415. If you're a little shy, want to email us instead, hit us up at help@thecondocoaches.com. We'll be back.
Contact the Condo Coaches online at thecondocoaches.com. More of the Condo Coaches is coming up next.
Life is full of bittersweet transitions. It's difficult to know how these changes will impact us over time. For some people, difficult transitions like retirement, divorce, or loss of a loved one can hit harder than expected and may contribute to feelings of hopelessness or even thoughts of suicide. The risk of suicide is even higher for men over 50 who served our country. Guys like me. That's why support from friends and family makes such a big difference. Every day, your actions could help save a life. Together, we got this. Learn how you can help save a life at veteranscrisisline.net.
Welcome back to the Condo Coaches, online at thecondocoaches.com. Here's your host, Johnny Torres.
Again, if you do have a question or an issue, even if it's not about today's topic, which we are talking collections and collection agencies and how to do a good job of collecting those association fees in your community. But regardless of what your issue or your question might be, our phone lines, our emails, always open to you 24/7. You can reach out to us via phone at 813-331-5415, 813-331-5415. Our email address, another great way to get a hold of us, because again, we can pass that email on to the condo coach that's best suited to help you. Our email address is help@thecondocoaches.com, help@thecondocoaches.com. And of course, we have great information on our website. We have tons of blog posts on there. You can watch the show on our YouTube video right there on our website. You can watch any of the episodes right from our website. And you can also reach out to us through a few forms. We got a few contact forms in there. And that's at thecondocoaches.com, thecondocoaches.com. We're talking collections, and Jake, you were talking about the DC. Give me the acronym one more time.
FDCPA, Federal Debt Collection Practices Act. So Google that. That's a good thing to look at.
Right. And then we were talking, during the break, really, of how tricky this is and how you pretty much need to get it right the first time. There's no room for error here.
Absolutely. And that's another question to ask when you're going down that route of looking for your collections partner is, are they FDCPA compliant? And also, what legal exposure risk does the association have should the collection professional do something wrong against the debtor? Will the association be on the hook for paying all the legal fees? So, and then that leads into another question. Are you indemnified? Does your collections partner, do they indemnify you if they make a mistake?
Oh, wow.
Another really important thing to look at when you're going down that route.
Sure, because you're just trying to do what's right by the residents, and then all of a sudden you could be creating a bigger legal mess for yourself to begin with.
And after the big kind of 2008 bubble that collapsed, there's a lot of federal legislation that was passed to protect debtors.
Right.
But on the flip side, you got to protect your association.
Now, Dean, we were talking about really how we continue to get back at this topic, and it's through the financial assessments that we're doing all across the state of Florida for associations. Our financial assessments are free.
Right.
A lot of people find that hard to believe, but they find out pretty quickly that it's the real thing. You send us your financial documents, we put it into a spreadsheet, that does some voodoo or something that you put into it, and then it basically gives them a very easy to understand, black and white assessment of where their community is financially.
Yeah.
To kind of create a safety net situation, right, on the top end, right? So they maybe don't need a financial assessment. We talked about getting a second opinion from a property management company or a collections agency on the collections policy. is there something that, again, that if they were to call us, email us, what's another good suggestion for them in terms of policy language that maybe we can offer the people who like to work with the condo coaches?
I think for benefit of all the associations we work with as condo coaches, we have legal condo coaches. If anybody wants a boilerplated collection policy for their association, all they need to do is go help at thecondocoaches.com. All they need to do is write in, we would like a collection policy, put their board and everything else. If they have their condo declarations, those are always helpful. Just attach the PDF,
right?
And we'll have one of our condo coaches at no charge, one of our condo coach lawyers, review the deck and send them a policy that they can just plug and play.
That's consistent with their governing documents.
And meets all the requirements that he shared and stuff. We'll do that now. I know our lawyers that are condo coaches.
Yeah.
And I'm the head coach, so it's kind of like they will do it.
All right, perfect. So again, if someone wants boilerplate,
that'll help, won't it, Jake?
That's huge, especially for free. I mean, that could cost you, elsewhere going out to have someone do that. But if the Condo Coaches is offering that for free, I would take them up on it and get an actual. Can you just put in your association?
Yeah,
in the
we'll
blanks?
Yeah. We'll
nice.
Yeah,
because like you said,
so they vote. We'll even give them an outline. Take it, vote.
Whether it's your property management company, a law firm, or a collections agency, time is money, and they're going to charge you to come up with that collections policy, even if it's a second or third opinion. And so, I mean, again, we've got a team of volunteers across the state of Florida who are willing to give you that boilerplate text, that you can plug right into your governing documents, and the condo coaches will send it to you. That's what I meant to say.
$19.95. Yeah. Order now, get 2 of them.
3 easy payments.
Yeah. Here's the other thing that we did a while back in one of our visits that is still available. We weren't able to get it up on the website because it was interactive, but I can have it emailed to anybody, and it's the assessment delinquency calculator where they put in their total past due, their total number of units that they have,
right,
and the total number of units that are past due. We had one association that sent in. We sent it back. We filled it out for them and sent it back.
Right.
The average paying owner paid $2,500 out of their pocket for the non-paying owners, and nobody knew it.
Oh, that's
and
painful.
I said, they didn't even want to talk about it. They didn't want to show it in their board meeting. They're going, we'll be lynched.
Yeah.
$2,500. So somebody's sitting there going, honey, can we go on a cruise? No, we don't have money. Well, we paid $2,500 for Bill next door to not pay assessments. Maybe he'll pay us to go on a cruise. What are the chances of that, Jake?
Well,
slim to none.
Well, and first in line in that firing squad is going to be that board.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is, nobody looks at it that way. That's why we had this after one of our visits. We had somebody ask us. We constructed this spreadsheet that's in a PDF.
Yeah.
All somebody has to do is request the collection PDF, and we'll shoot it to them. They put their own numbers in, so it's not opinion like we say on the show. Everybody's entitled to their own opinions, but nobody's entitled to their own facts.
Right.
When they plug those facts in, we have seen red-faced, embarrassed board members and upset community owners.
Well, and that's why we created the booklet, understanding your community's finances. Because, again, a lot of times, and I'm not knocking the property management companies, but when they hand over these financial reports, the truth of the matter is that the people who are getting them don't understand them.
They don't read them. We did a continuing education recently. We had everybody raise their hand that did the income statement. Every hand went up. Boards. We said, everybody looked at your balance sheet. Not a hand went up.
Well, and look, I'll own up to it. I mean, I've been guilty as a resident of getting, because they mail them to you, right? Every year they'll mail you a copy of the community's finances and the budget and all that stuff. And I'll kind of just breeze through it. And I'm like, okay, I guess it's fine. I don't know. I mean, again, I don't have an accounting degree. I've never, run a small business, and that's what you're doing. You're running a small business here. And if you don't understand what you're looking at, you need to get educated on that, which is why we did the booklets.
The train wreck we saw at lunch, which we'll be getting back with that board today and tomorrow.
That the $1 million one?
Yeah, $1 million plus, almost $1.5 million. That's a train wreck. Yeah. I mean, we figure that's 3 years of 100% assessment.
Well, and you at least hope that seeing that the board is taking steps towards correcting this, that they won't get thrown under the bus for being the ones to discover it. Because, again, that's a very deep hole. And obviously they realized at some point that something wasn't right, which is why they came to us.
Well, we had a huge win last week. We had, again, these financial assessments. We've been, for about the last 3 months, been working with this one big association with all their financial assessments. Mm-hmm. And we went back and fixed everything, finally got the management company. It was totally embarrassing because when we got done, it turned out that $150,000 worth of reserves that were unfunded. Everybody thought it was people taking money and putting it to the other stuff. It was a developer that never paid his share of the reserves. And because nobody really deep dove it, statute of limitations hit, it's gone money forever.
Yeah, that's it. The money's just vanished.
Now, the good news is it wasn't misappropriated or anything, but because people had never had a financial assessment, they had CPA.
But they thought there was money there that now doesn't exist.
No, they thought they owed it.
But
they didn't know why they owed it.
Right.
In the reality, the association didn't own it. The developer did. It's a $150,000 boo-boo. Yeah. And that's a big boo-boo.
Now, is a collections policy something that you want to revisit from time to time, I would think, or unless maybe there's major changes, right? I would say unless there's major changes in the community or circumstances, maybe like what would call for maybe a natural disaster, or maybe, I don't know, would there be any need to kind of revisit this? Or maybe a community that's kind of in a hole financially, maybe needs to revisit their collections policy?
I mean, I don't know. My opinion of any kind of policies is you're like a municipality. If a hurricane came through here, the government doesn't go, okay, don't worry about paying your property taxes.
Right.
They don't go,
yeah, everything has to continue as normal.
So the association, no matter what happens, their fiduciary responsibility, again, this is just the finance side, their fiduciary responsibility is to pay for everything.
Absolutely.
Period.
It's taxes.
Yeah, it's taxes.
Everyone pays their taxes. You got to pay your assessments. One thing I wanted to add too that kind of goes along with our conversation is, let's say an association already has a collections policy. What can the condo coaches do with that? Would there be any kind of review process? Would that be good for them to send in their current one? And
all right. So again, let's kind of go back. So obviously we have our financial assessment. We also have boilerplate language. If you need a collections policy, or you're unhappy with your collections policy, we'll send you ours, basically, for you to consider, and then we'll do a review of your collections policy, making sure
charge.
And that kind of answers your, when should somebody look at it?
Sure.
At any time you can review it.
Right.
Sounds like the condo coaches will do it.
Because again, like I said at the very beginning of the show, there's a lifespan to this, right? We've had attorneys on, we've had Jake on before to talk about collections. I mean, there's only so far down that rabbit hole that you should really go before you realize that you're not going to see any of that money, right?
Right.
I mean, because you could take them to court and all this stuff, but you're basically, the risk just gets greater and greater because you're adding on to those legal fees as you kind of follow somebody down that rabbit hole to try to collect.
Well, this is not condos. Anybody will tell you the older an accounts receivable gets, the harder it is to collect. When I had my businesses and we sold tires all over the state of Florida to commercial companies, when it hit 90 days, we were in trouble. Because now you're going to have to hire legal, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And the quicker you get on top of these units, the better. You're going to have some problem ones, right, Jake?
Yes. It's how you deal with them, and you don't need to be voting on what to do.
Right.
It should just be automatic. It really needs to be automatic.
All right. Well, we got the final segment of the Condo Coaches coming up. Again, we're talking collections and partnering with a collections agency to keep the lifeblood of your community running when it comes to getting those association fees in the door. So joining me, Jake Howse, Condo Coach, and head coach Dean Akers. It's the Condo Coaches radio show. We'll be back for the final segment after this.
Contact the Condo Coaches online at thecondocoaches.com. More of the Condo Coaches is coming up next.
Yeah. Like why? What would be the...
Attention men under the age of 35. You know what really impresses the ladies? When a guy has a few drinks and later gets pulled over for buzz driving. That could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. There goes let's grab dinner and a movie. Oh, I know. You drive more carefully when you're buzzed. You've proven that hundreds of times. A woman admires that kind of confidence. And you've practiced how to speak if a cop does pull you over. Slowly, clearly, and politely like, "Good evening, officer." A woman admires that kind of foresight. And what woman doesn't find it adorable that you call it buzzed even though the law calls it drunk?
A lot of feelings
You could
involved.
kiss $10,000 goodbye, along with any chance of having a
you're basing it on
girlfriend. Because nothing says, "I'm a catch," more than a guy who lives in his parents' basement and calls it my place.
Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the Condo Coaches, online at thecondocoaches.com. Here's your host, Johnny Torres.
Thank you again for watching. We are discussing the collection of association fees and, of course, how to find the right partner when you do need a collections agency, whether that be an actual collections company or that be a law firm that also does collections. There are a lot of players in that field. And again, it's all about that relationship, asking the right questions, finding the right fit for your community. So, of course, we bring in the people that we know this topic best. And that's Jake Howse, one of our original condo coaches, and then, of course, head coach Dean Akers. Like I said, for more on this topic, you don't have to go very far because at thecondocoaches.com, you can download our playbooks. We've got 6 of them, and these playbooks have been incredibly effective. We've printed off thousands of them. The downloads are even much higher than that. But we have 6 booklets, the top 10 most important things you need to know if you're an HOA or a COA board member, the ABCs of holding elections. But today is all about the association fees. So we were talking about how you get here really is by a lack of understanding of your community's finances, which is why we wrote this first booklet. Understanding your community's finances is incredibly important to know what you're looking at and what to look for, right? So you know if there's some red flags going on in your community's finances. But then again, the trickier topic being collecting delinquent association fees, because it's not a fun issue to have to deal with. And of course, as we mentioned in the first segment and the second segment, your property management company is only going to do so far, right? Like they'll only go down that road with you up to about 90 days. And then at that point, you need to get another partner involved. Of course, do a lot of these collection policies I'm saying like in legal terms, right? Do they vary from state to state as well? So in other words, what you aren't able to do in regards to collections, does that change from state to state?
It does. We have expertise in Florida.
Yeah.
But it would depend on the lien rights and the liens, the statutory rights, under the constitutions of different states. Florida's, 718, 720, you can Google that and you can read exactly what a condominium can or can't do. And then they're further, they have further restrictions based on their articles of incorporation and their declaration of condominiums. There can be further restrictions there.
Because we talked in a previous episode is to exactly, really kind of how that timing can get real tricky if the home has been foreclosed on, right? That unit's been foreclosed on. And then, does the community take ownership or does the bank take ownership and kind of how all that timing works out? Because depending on the severity of, that particular unit's delinquency, could determine, again, who owns what. And it's all about making sure that you're on top of it, right?
Yeah, and knowing what is going to happen if the association does take title to it. What condition is the unit in? Is the association ready to rent that property out? Do they have the right protocols in place? Will the collection partner help with that process?
And that's where I was getting.
Yeah.
Which is in choosing the right partner for collections, do you want somebody that already has experience in that wheelhouse, which is taking ownership of a property and making sure that transfer of ownership takes place to the community and then figuring out what to do with it next, right?
Yeah, typically if you ask someone to do something and you're paying them to do it, they're going to do it. So if you ask your attorney to foreclose on a property, they're going to foreclose on a property.
Yeah.
The better question to ask is, should we foreclose? Why should we foreclose? When we foreclose and we take title to the property, what are we going to do then? what is that partner's question there? That trusted advisor that you have, because if you just end up with title to something and the bank's still out there, again, what are your options?
Well, and I think it really comes down to the heart of why we do the condo coaches, because you can hire somebody and pay them to do just about anything you want. But what you're really looking for is an expert in the field who is going to give you the pros and cons of every situation and put you in the best situation to move forward that's going to benefit the community, not just do as they're told.
Yeah, hopefully someone with skin in the game.
Okay.
I would look at that.
And what does that typically look like?
Someone where the outcome is going to affect them. So whether it's positive or negative, how is it going to affect the person that's in there? Almost like a contingent basis.
Yeah.
Again, if they're spending their own money to go and collect your fees, hopefully they have skin in the game.
And what does that typically look like? I mean, I'm sure it's kind of all over the map for the most part, but I would say in general, is it a percentage of what's collected? Is it a fee up front? Like, what do these relationships with a collections agency typically look like?
Gosh, I mean, as they say, there's 100 different ways to skin a cat. Rather than kind of going down that rabbit hole of getting into the weeds, I would just look at somebody that's going to indemnify you,
right?
In case they do something that's not smart, legally speaking, and someone who has skin in the game. So that when they make decisions, you're a partner with them,
right?
The association and your partner, you guys are making decisions together, rather than just telling someone to do something and they send you a bill and
sure, someone who's going to take equal responsibility for the decisions that are being made.
Right. Yeah, that's a better way to put it.
Now, do you find it that maybe is it that kind of a situation where maybe they'll tailor that agreement to whatever is more comfortable or best suited for that community? So maybe it's a fee for one community, maybe it's a commission for another community. Do you find that to be the case, or do these companies typically have one business model and pretty much stick to it?
Well, I always go back to, again, that partner should be asking you questions. They should be customizable, of course, using laws and regulations and making sure that they're buttoned up on that side. But find somebody who's customizable, willing to work with you, willing to, if you both lose out on a collection case, is the association going to be out of pocket $3,000 in an unsuccessful case?
Yeah.
Is your partner also going to be out? So I would just ask those questions when you're looking for someone. Which,
again, goes back to a big part of why we started the Condo Coaches. I mean, we saw communities spending thousands of dollars in legal fees when this program, I think, has probably saved tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees for some communities out there, just based on not only some of the services that we're offering for free, like the assessment and boilerplate language and that sort of thing, but also just in some of the advice we're giving out, which would typically rack up those hours when you're going through your legal firm.
Right.
So what are some of the other things that they need to be looking out for? So long term, I mean, is this a long-standing relationship, or is it on a case-by-case basis where they bring in somebody to handle their collections?
Right now in the state of Florida, just to throw out some facts, 6% delinquency. So there's about 48,000, close to 50,000 associations. You times that by 6%. I can't do fast math. That's how many delinquencies that are in the state.
Well, there's 3 million. There's almost 3.5 million units.
Okay.
Okay. Do that times his number.
The 6%.
Yeah. So that's 200,000 delinquencies or better.
Those are people not paying their assessments for whatever reason.
Sure.
So right now, the economy, we're almost at full employment. You had a time in 2008 where you had 20% delinquency. So you want to be prepared now, put a flag in the ground,
right?
Get your partner in line, get the policy in place, even if you have zero delinquencies, because there could come a time where that's not the case, and you want to be protected then.
And that could be the best situation, right? If you're currently, good, that might be the best time to bring in a partner and saying, hey, we're good, but in case we need you, let's set up a deal so that way when we call you, you can jump right in.
Right, just like preparing for a hurricane. Right now, no hurricanes. We haven't had hurricanes in a while, but the folks who are prepared now are going to have a much better outcome when we have a big storm.
Yeah, because you don't want it to wait until afterwards to then try to get all that sorted out.
Right.
Yeah, our experts on that. If you remember right, the most critical thing is preparation in advance.
Yeah.
And from what I'm hearing from Jake, collections is preparation in advance too.
Correct. At 6%, it's much smaller. It was 20% back in 2008. 20%.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So we've come a long way.
And depending on what part of the state you live in, we could be back there very shortly. I mean, we do hear the rumbles in the water about South Florida possibly being in a real estate bubble. I think here in the Tampa Bay area, we're in pretty good shape.
We've had one of the longest real estate expansions. I mean, if mathematically, the real estate expansion says there's something right around the corner.
We're due.
Yeah.
Because I don't think the prices have gotten out of control like they did 10 years ago.
Well, the speculation I don't think is out of control.
Right.
As much. Yeah.
We've had 9 years of positive growth. That's a long run.
So the clock may be ticking.
You don't want to say that, but you got to look at history.
Yeah.
Are you prepared?
Well, and again, if you find that your community is heavily delinquent on association fees, if you find that you need a financial assessment, if you find that you need a new collections policy, reach out to us at the Condo Coaches. Again, our website, thecondocoaches.com. You can email us, help@thecondocoaches.com, help@thecondocoaches.com. You can always call us as well. Leave us a message. We'd love to use your question or issue on the show, and that phone number is 813-331-5415. Thanks again to Jake Howse.
Good to be
seeing
here,
you, buddy. Yeah, and head coach Dean Akers.
See you next week.
All right, thanks for listening.
You've been listening to the Condo Coaches, brought to you by lmfunding.com. Find us online at thecondocoaches.com and join us this same time next week as we help you navigate life in your managed community.